Sunday Surefire Podcast. It's your host this week, Aaron Downtown Brown. I got the one and the only back for a return, Ethan Weaver.
Hey, Aaron, glad to be back. It's been a while.
It has, but for a good reason. We know you brought a new member of the Sunday Surefire crew into the world, so congrats on that.
Thank you. I already have him listening to the podcast. He loves it.
Very nice nursery rhyme. I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wait.
but no, things have been good. So it's been a change, but it's been a great change.
That's awesome. I guess my last question there with that is have you picked out your favorite New England Patriots or Tom Brady story you're using to put him to sleep to at night?
Not yet, but that'll be soon coming.
It was the
Yeah. So
no,
hey,
you
so the
good guy.
Patriots were down 28-3.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure you'll show him all those reruns in years to come. So
Well, hey,
um
after what we just saw with the Patriots in Dallas, that's the only good memories we have left. The old Brady days.
hey, maybe with my luck, he'll be a Mahomes fan if he's playing with
Oh no, come on, he's not gonna be a bandwagon jumper.
Nice. Well, yeah, I guess with that being said, we've had some good weeks. Had mostly ups, but didn't have our best week, I guess, out of coming through week four. But as always, we do want to bring up our told you so's for the week.
You like that? You like that?
All right. Yeah, I guess we could say we like that, but this list is maybe a little bit shorter this week. I'll go ahead and just call out mine. It's kind of more short and sweet this week. I was pretty bullish on Josh Allen. He was a pretty penny. He was 8,200. He did give you 320 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown against Miami Dolphins. So I like Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen for the rest of the year. Rest of the year, I really think the Bills are going to keep steamrolling this year. But that's really my main told you so. I had a couple mediocre calls, Michael Thomas, and a couple guys that just kind of gave you those average points, the 10, 11 points with maybe in regular fantasy, you wouldn't mind it. But we're here for the big time booms. But I don't know with Ethan, who do you want to call out anyone from Told You So from last week?
Yeah, clearly I was a little off my game as well. Blame the lack of sleep I've been getting. But yeah, no, I mentioned Adam Thielen last week. He had a little over 15 points, so not terrible for the pick six. And then my defense that I called out was Tampa Bay, and they got 13. So I guess that foots the bill. But I believe you guys forgot to mention my defense on the last pod, so I'll blame you guys for that one.
Yeah, that was our bad there. We glossed over that. We must have thought Tampa Bay didn't have it going, but that was definitely a good pick there with Tampa's D last week.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a tough week. I mean, obviously with us recording the show earlier in the week, there was some injuries that kind of went down. Garoppolo going down kind of killed that Vegas game with the Chargers, even though the kid there O'Connell yeah, for the Raiders, he played pretty good, but it just, I mean, I think Jacoby Myers had 15 targets the week before, and he Jacoby was kind of an afterthought last week, so that killed him. And then my bullish buy was Keenan Allen, which didn't work out. He only had like 12 or so points. I was disappointed I didn't bring up CMC because CMC was in my lineup with Allen, but obviously I didn't choose him. That would have been a great bullish buy last week.
That's true. That's true. You would have had the best bullish buy of the week with CMC scoring a century mark of over 50 points in DFS last week. So that would have been nice, but woulda, coulda, shoulda last week. But we'll go ahead and start talking week five. We'll get right back on track and try to make it four out of the first 5 weeks being pretty hot this year. But with that being said, let's kick it off with our bullish buy section. These are the guys that we're pretty confident are going to have big weeks. 9 times out of 10, they're pretty penny, like I mentioned last week. Josh Allen, 8,200. So Ethan, we'll kick it off with you. Who is your bullish buy this week in week 5 in your DFS lineup?
My bullish buy is Bijan Robinson at 7,700. He's going against the Houston Texans, which are a lot better team than people thought they were going to be. But I just think Bijan Robinson, he's been so good this year. He's scored 20 points in 3 out of his first 4 weeks. And that's with him not scoring a rushing touchdown. He does have one receiving, and he's played 76% of the snaps in week 4. He was 81% in week 3, and he's basically regulating Algier to a legit backup role, who only played 30% of the snaps in week 3 and 26% of the snaps in week 4. So Bijan Robinson has taken over this backfield, which we obviously thought was going to happen. Just took a little longer than we thought, but I mean, I just think he's just so talented. Watching him um, play in London this past week, he just need to get the ball in his hands. I believe he only had 14 rushes. If he can just get to the 15 plus, to almost 20 rush attempts with the receiving work, it just look out. And I do think the zero rushing touchdowns are going to change this week. I think he falls in the end zone, and I think he gets all the work he can handle on the ground and through the air. So I don't think there's a much safer running back this week in the 1 o'clock slate.
No, I think I'll agree with that. I think Bijan definitely shown his skills this year. Why he's such a high draft capital guy. Definitely shows his skills. I think sometimes in our in our daily fantasy show, we usually pick up guys that have great matchups, or just guys that are going to be in the game script. I think Bijan is all over that that Arthur Smith offense, and it's definitely showing. So good call there with Bijan. And then yeah, against the Texans, I think it's just going to be maybe a close game. Atlanta's got to get back on track after that loss in London, like you said too. So I like the call there. You notice that, so everyone may notice they're not hearing Kamish's voice. He's out this week, but I do have his picks. I'll go ahead and say his. And it's funny, his and I's is actually a tag team approach here. We actually have the same guys he was gonna say. I'm gonna say here. So I went for my bullish buy. I went 9,400 and then another pretty penny against my beloved Chiefs. So for all you day ones out there, if you remember season 1 on Sunday Surefire, we gave out advice in daily fantasy, and my number one rule was do not be a homer in daily fantasy or fantasy in general, right? So I understand the assignment here. Getting Justin Jefferson in my lineup. Looking at this, high. It's the highest over of week 5, 52.5. That's a trend we like to do a lot on the show because, I mean, I know we know a lot of things, but so does Vegas, right? So when there's high overs, a lot of times you want to get pieces of that game in there. So I went Justin Jefferson against my beloved Chiefs, and it's funny. So did Kamish. He went J. Jeff, but he also mentioned he has Travis Kelce in his lineup too. He wanted to get both sides of the ball, the number one targets in both of the passing offenses. So, Ethan, what do you think of J. Jeff and Travis Kelce for our bullish buys?
I mean, you can't really go wrong with JJ or Kelsey. They're both absolute studs. I think Justin Jefferson's a great call, just considering the over under in that game. I think it is going to be electric. I think the Chiefs are going to have a bounce back game offensively uh, against the Minnesota Vikings. They struggled a little bit against the Jets, and I think it's going to force the Minnesota Vikings to chuck the ball. I definitely wanted some pieces of this game as well. I didn't go Justin Jefferson. I wanted to save a little bit of money, and I actually took another receiver. Actually took other receivers in this game. One I'll be talking about a little later on, but the other that I won't be discussing. I actually took Jordan Addison. I know Addison's coming off a goose egg, but I definitely wanted a piece of that offense. I think Addison bounces back in a big way against the Chiefs, but I also think Justin Jefferson does his damage as well.
Got it. Yeah, I like it. I mean, sometimes in those games you can just kind of throw names in a hat, and there could be so much scoring. Even if you throw one wide receiver that falls into the end zone, you probably got a good chance of hitting on one of those guys. So, With that being said, that's our bullish buy section for this week. Let's move into defenses here. This is called the two deep section. We're actually gonna go three deep because I got Kamish's defense as well. So Ethan, how about we kick it off with you again? Who are you going in your for your defense this week in week 5?
I'm gonna go with the Miami Dolphins. They're going against the New York Giants. The game is in Miami, and we just saw the Giants yesterday on Monday Night Football against Seattle, and it wasn't pretty. They allowed 11 sacks, which was tied ninth most sacks in a single game in NFL history. And Daniel Jones has thrown 6 picks through 4 weeks, two resulting in pick sixes. And I just think the Dolphins get up on the Giants and puts the Giants in chuck it mode. And when that happens, the D line can pin their ears back and go after Daniel Jones. And I think Daniel Jones ends up on his back a lot, and he's probably forced to make a couple of mistakes. I just like the upside with the Dolphins defense at 3,600, and at that price, I just love the upside there.
Yeah, that's a fun strategy to have sometimes too. If you think, on the other side of the ball, Miami's gonna score against the Giants, like you said, if they just gotta be chucking it up with Daniel Jones, you know that was not a good game script, what we just saw on Monday night. So like you said, maybe you get some picks out of that. So not a bad call, a little bit pricier. You said 3,600. So I'm gonna give the next two picks here that are a little bit lower. So we're gonna give everyone a good range from 3,600. We actually get all the way down to 2,400 as well too. So I'll go ahead and kick it off with Kamish's defense here. This is for 3,000, and he's going with the New Orleans Saints here. Defense. They're playing against your beloved Pats defense. Don't have a lot of notes here from Kamish, but other than the fact that they do have a pretty good run defense, which we know that the Patriots need to use that to set up their offense a little bit. But Commissioner's biggest note is the Pats offensive line can't block, right? So that's not a good story for the Pats. So that's why he's actually he's not being a homer too. So he might be two times a charm, or not being homers on this show this week. That he's going against his Patriots for 3,000 New Orleans Saints. So Ethan, any comments on that before I go to my defense?
As I mentioned, the Dallas game this past weekend, the Patriots are kind of the flavor of the day here in terms of an offense to attack after what Mac Jones put up on tape against the Cowboys. So I definitely can see New Orleans as a viable selection. I do think the Patriots bounce back a little bit. They usually play pretty good at home. I mean, they've been competitive all year except for that Dallas game. Everything just imploded. So I see where the commissioner's going here, but I do think the Patriots bounce back, and obviously the Saints didn't have a pretty performance against the Bucks either. So I probably wouldn't have gone that direction, but I can definitely see why the commish picked the Saints there.
Maybe that's the strategy. If you go against your team in fantasy, if they do good, you're gonna be happy either way, right? So you got to either be happy that you're right or happy that you're wrong.
Yeah, I don't think Mac Jones is gonna be. I don't know. He's probably not going to play scared, but there's no way he's going to be throwing across his back across the field like he was against Dallas. I think he's going to be a little safer with the ball, and I don't think the Patriots really need to put up a ton of points to beat the Saints. It doesn't seem like Carr is very healthy, and the Patriots, I don't know. It's tough to also say too what the Patriots defense is going to look like. They just lost Judon, and they probably lost Gonzalez for this week as well. So who knows what their defense is going to look like? But I wouldn't. I don't think the Patriots are going to be a pushover this week against the Saints.
All right, all right. So not quite jumped off the Homer bus yet there, Ethan. So we'll see who's right there
Well, no,
as far
yeah,
as
I
your
don't think the
Patriot
Patriots
fans.
season's really going anywhere, but for this week, I think it'll be
Still
fine
some
this
hope.
week.
All right, all right. So 3,600, we got Miami, 3,000 with the Saints, and I'm going the bottom of the bear. I'm going 2,400 this week. I'm actually going Tennessee Titans against Indianapolis Colts. Um, So a couple things here I want to point out. One, I mentioned I had Justin Jefferson. Got to save some money. A lot of times I like to save it with defenses. With this specific matchup, I will say your boy A Rich has impressed me this year. So I think I have turned the corner. I like what I do see from Anthony Richardson. But what I will say, going back to Vegas, this is only a 42 point over. But if you kind of look at these teams in specific, and you got this in division matchup, I think that's going to be a good game. Just a good football game to watch. But the biggest thing here to note is Tennessee is the third best run defense in the league, so they have a pretty stout defensive front four. And the funny thing about that is Indianapolis, arguably one of their best strengths on, or the best strength is on offense is the run game, right? So, to me, I think that's going to wash each other out a little bit to where I think Tennessee can shut down the run a little bit in Indy and kind of force Richardson into into some more throws. So I like that. I like that for a cheap defense in Tennessee. I think with the division matchup usually you're gonna see some of those turnovers and some crazy plays. So um, I think you might get some turnovers there in that game. So I went bottom of the barrel. I went 2,400 Tennessee as my defense.
I've actually seen that as a popular pick in DFS circles. And obviously, if you're paying up for guys like Justin Jefferson, you need to save money somewhere, which makes Tennessee a decent defense to kind of take a shot on. I do think Anthony Richardson has a decent day throwing the rock. I know it's going to be very hard to run against that defense, but they are susceptible through the air. I think Pittman has a bounce back game. I think he only had one catch last week. So, as you mentioned, Richardson has been pretty impressive this year, and I think I just I don't see Tennessee shutting them down. But obviously, with a defense that cheap, if they get 10 to 12 points, they did their job.
Exactly. I mean that's kind of my what I'm hoping with. They're actually averaging like 7 to 8 points on the season. So even if they get 7 to 8, I can be happy with that. But yeah, if you get a pick six in there or something, it's wheels up there. So that's my thinking. But I think we did a good job this week. We got a good array of defenses, good range depending on what your lineups out there are looking like. We got 3,600 down to 2,400, so can take your pick there. But with that being said, we might get a little more dicey. We're gonna go on to the pick six section here. And this is sometimes where it's funny. We got a little bit of disagreeing. We got a little bit of homerness, a little bit of you know. Ethan's kind of like 1 foot on, 1 foot off the homer bus there with that Saints call too. So we'll definitely see if we get into any arguments here in the pick six category. But we'll start that off, and actually I'll kick off this section here. I'll start with my most expensive in this category. And once again, pick six. This is guys that we think, kind of low dollar guys that we think are going to turn out big. Basically low cost, high reward that we're calling out here. So this is funny. I kind of had to talk myself off the ledge here, and I might have tried a lot of different combinations. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with this one here. I think I like where I'm going here with this. So I'm going 5,200 at my quarterback spot. And are you ready for this? I'm actually gonna go Josh
I'm
Dobbs
ready.
in my lineup. Josh Dobbs is gonna be my starting quarterback. So, Ethan, this is that Cincinnati versus Arizona game in Arizona. And the more I started looking at him, like, man, Josh has kind of been putting up like some sneaky points this year. He put up 25 fantasy points against the Giants, 17 against the Dallas defense, which they won that game, I might add. And then he put up 23 against San Francisco, which might be the best defense in the league. So, um, I kind of like where what Josh Dobbs has been doing as of late. And speaking of that San Francisco game, he put up 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 48 yards. So, like I said, I had to talk myself into it, but like I said, I think it's a sneaky play at quarterback to get, fit some good position players in my lineup this week. So I actually went cheap at quarterback this week in week 5 with Dobbs for 5,200. What do you think, Ethan?
I like that call a lot. If you're trying to get up like legitimate high end upside at other positions, Dobbs is a perfect, I think, quarterback to put in your starting lineup. And as you said, he's been kind of balling out. And if he can put up whatever 23 points against San Francisco, why can't he do the same against Cincinnati? He looks like he has command of that offense. Even guys like Marquise Brown, he's having a much better I think season than many thought because of the play of Joshua Dobbs. So I like that call a lot, and that allows you a lot of flexibility in other parts of your lineup.
Well, thank you, sir. So far so good on this pick six section. Let's hear your first guy. Who do you got?
So I'll go most expensive, and then down from there. Pretty cheap at 4,100 at the tight end position. I'm going Tyler Higbee. And I just think attacking the Philadelphia Eagles at this point, at the tight end position, is a smart move in daily fantasy football. Higbee, he's getting peppered with targets. He had 11 targets last week, and the Philadelphia Eagles have allowed two tight end overall number one finishes this year in weeks 1 and 2 with Hunter Henry and TJ Hawkinson. He's had double digit points in back to back games, including two top 12 finishes. Tyler Higbee did. And like I said, 11 targets last week. He had 5 catches for 64 yards. And I see Higbee getting peppered again. I think they're going to have to put up points to keep up with Philly. And I think he's a decent option to be a top 5 tight end this week at $4,100.
Yeah, I don't mind the Higby call. I think like he's last year made him pretty well known. He's just a sneaky guy to have on fantasy just in general because he gets targets. I mean, that's even with when Cooper Cup is healthy. So couple things to look out for. We may possibly see a return of Cup this week. We know Nakua was commanding a lot of targets as well. But I do like the call with Higby. I think they're going to have to keep up with Philadelphia this week too. I did see an injury sign, so I would just say like track that. We're recording this Tuesday again, so definitely track his status of the game. But yeah, I don't mind the game script call, and especially if Cup can't make it. I think that's even more enticing to throw Higby in the lineup. Regarding that, regarding his health.
Yeah, no, I just think Higbee is. I don't think Cup's going to come back and just assume a full workload. And I think that, as I said, I think the Rams are going to have to chuck the ball to keep up with Philadelphia. And I mean, he's coming off a game where he just had 11 targets. So it's I like the upside with Higbee, and I think it's a decent price point.
All right, all right. So yeah, we'll definitely keep tracking that out there. But we'll go ahead and go to my next guy, and it's kind of funny. So not always I don't always have the opportunity to do this talking about stacks, but it's funny. I'm actually going to be calling out a stack here in my lineup. I'm stacking two of my pick six players at quarterback and wide receiver. You mentioned him earlier. I'm actually going Hollywood Brown for only $5,000 this week. So like you said, Hollywood Brown is Marquise Brown for all of you to out there looking for the names, but yeah, he's commanding targets. He had 7 catches out of 10 targets last week for 96 yards, right? Last he also came off of 2 weeks in a row scoring a touchdown in that Arizona offense. So he's definitely the number one option for Dobbs in that offense. But I do like the game script with Cincinnati. If we start seeing Cincinnati, like hopefully, I'm kind of also just betting on Cincinnati too, right? We talked about this before the episode too. Like one of these weeks, Burrow's going to start feeling a little bit better. That calf's going to feel a little bit better, and they're going to start just throwing it all over the yard, right? So I'm kind of looking forward to the game script, and we just saw San Francisco put up a good amount of points. So looking at game script, I like Dobbs this week. That means I gotta like Hollywood Brown for only 5,000. So he's my second pick six guy this week.
Yeah, I already mentioned him, so you know I like that pick. he had 10 targets in week 2, 10 targets last week, and another 7 targets in week 3. I mean, he's had his last 3 weeks, he had 17-4, 17-1, and 16-6 fantasy points. So definitely a guy for 5,000. If he can return that, that'd be ideal. And I think he obviously with Marquise Brown, he always has the upside to pop a big one. So definitely like the Marquise Brown call there.
All right, all right. So tell me who you got for your final pick six before we go into commission's picks here.
Okay, so I'm going pretty cheap here at $3,600. And I'm going back to that Kansas City, Minnesota game, and I'm going to go Rashi Rice. And the Minnesota Vikings have a lot of trouble stopping anything through the air this season. And as I mentioned, I think Mahomes in that offense has a bounce back game this week. And from everything I've seen, Rashee Rice is the number one wide receiver target outside, obviously, Travis Kelce. He's only 4 games in his career, and like I said, I think he's established himself as the alpha wide receiver in Kansas City. His 5 targets in week 4 only trailed Kelsey's 9. And if you just look at his snap percentages and his targets over the last couple of weeks, he's been the main target hog. I mean, in week 3, he had 7 targets. Week 4, as I mentioned, he had 5 targets. And Sky Moore in week 3 had 6 targets. In week 4, he had 2. And then Tony, he only had he was in week 3, he was coming off the injury. He only played 3% of snaps. He had 1 target. Week 4, this past week, he only had 2 targets. And MVS, he is what he is. He only had 2 targets in back-to-back weeks. So Rashee Rice is consistently getting the volume in that offense. And as I said, he's only 4 games in his career. I think he can really attack the Minnesota Vikings defense, and I think he has a chance to pop off and kind of have a marquee game here for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I just think the matchup is very tantalizing, and he's only $3,600. So I like Rashee Rice in Week 5.
Love it. Love it. Love that you threw the tantalizing pick in there. I love it for a lot of other reasons too. Because I wanted to get, another exposure to that game. I mentioned I had Justin Jefferson, but I got to throw in somebody from my beloved Chiefs as well. As I mentioned earlier, this is another game like, you did that with Addison too. Like you want to throw in a couple guys because you think you think Mahomes is gonna throw over 300 yards. So, I mean, all 300 yards aren't going to Travis Kelce, right? So, if he could spread that around a little bit, I think, it's funny. Rice ended up in my lineup, but he was my very last guy. And it's funny. I had about $600 worth, and I really didn't like the window of players from Rice at what'd you say, 36 or 3,700? I want to say
36.
36. Yeah. I didn't like the window of like 36 to like 4,200 that I had to choose from. So I actually went all the way down to the 3,600 and landed on Rice as well. So I like that pick because it's funny. He's actually in my lineup this week too. I wasn't prepared to be, ballsy enough to bring him up in this
Oh, I'm bringing
game.
him up.
Yeah. So it's reassuring definitely as a Chiefs fan and for DFS, it's cool that we both decided on Rice. But yeah, we'll definitely see. He's had a couple drops this year that I that's kind of disappointing. That I think Tony outshadowed him in the drops in week 1, but Rice has had his fair share of drops this year too. So hopefully he cleans that up and then he can get a couple more fantasy points with turn those into catches.
Yeah, and I think if Rice falls in the end zone, I think the week before he had a couple close calls where he definitely was like a half yard from a touchdown, and he almost had another one in week 3. And I think if he gets in the end zone there, I think he's a little more on people's radar. I just like Rashee Rice, and I think he's quietly becoming the go-to receiver for Patty Mahomes there.
Agreed. One last interesting fact. So it's funny though, out of the whole receiver core, the guy who gave me the most crap in week 1, Justin Watson, has actually played. He played the most snaps for all the wide receivers last week in for Kansas City against the Jets, which is funny to me. But I still ended up with Rice in my lineup too. I think, as you said, I think they got to keep getting him involved and develop that rapport with Patty. All right, so we'll actually move on a little bit to we'll finish out this category with Kamish's picks. He's got his two guys here, and I'll spit these off back to back here. So we're going. He's going 4,900. He too is picking another piece out of that Kansas City Vikings game. So obviously we all kind of got different takes on it this week, but he's going 4,900 at running back position. Jerick McKinnon Kansas City versus Minnesota, right, in that same game. So, a lot of times when it comes into those games for the Chiefs and in that type of game script where it might be back and forth or pass happy, McKinnon gets a lot of receiving downs, right, coming out from the running back position, right, and especially it's funny, even on the goal line, he gets a lot of those snaps where they got to worry about everybody but McKinnon, and he ends up with the football. So I think that's what Pat's thinking there with Jerick McKinnon. I'll go ahead and say a second piece, and you can comment there. He's going even cheaper. He's going 3,400 with Alec Pierce. With going back to that Colts game, so it's kind of funny. Our logics are kind of meshing together, saying the same points, but we're spinning them in different ways. So, as we said, that Tennessee defense's run defense is pretty good, but Pat's going to use that, thinking. I'm sorry, Kamish is thinking that that's going to open up, some deep throws to Alec Pierce. So Pierce hasn't really capitalized on very many fantasy points this year, but he has played in 90% of all snaps in all four games this year for the Colts. So he's out there. A Rich just got to find him, right? So those are his pick six players with Jerick McKinnon for 4,900 and Alec Pierce for 3,400. Ethan, what do you think of that?
I think McKinnon Cole has a lot of upside. As you mentioned, we're attacking that game. McKinnon's the kind of player that can be the RB overall one any given week out of nowhere. He just has that upside. He only plays about 30% of the snaps, which is a little worrisome. But if Minnesota can keep the foot on the gas and put up points, McKinnon is probably going to play more than that 30% snap share, and Pacheco is probably going to see more of the pine. But even though Pacheco had a great game against the New York Jets, but I do like the McKinnon call just because I like the upside. I just think there's obviously a lot of risk there just because of the committee that they do have in Kansas City. And then Alec Pierce, I understand the play call just because of the Tennessee Titans pass defense. It's been susceptible to the pass, and Alec Pierce, as you mentioned, is playing 90% of the snaps plus, but in 3 or 4 games, he's had three or fewer targets. So hopefully, I mean, Kamish is probably hoping that he gets a 30, 40-yard touchdown or falls in the end zone. But it's two kind of risky plays. I'm assuming at their price points, I'm assuming his lineup is full of some pricier guys, but I do like the matchups that both these players have, and I can definitely see the logic behind it.
Yeah, I like the McKinnon call as well. The Pierce is one. It was like it's just a shot in the dark. I mean, I
Yep.
think it lines up that it can very well be true, and obviously it'd be a great told you so for next week if that happens. And this is why we talk it, right? This is why we got to analyze these games and kind of and visualize how these games are going to play out. So I mean, the likelihood, that's what the Colts need to turn in to do is kind of air it out. Pierce is a good guy to get those bombs, right? And A Rich does have an arm on him. So I can see it happening, but you got to know it is a risky play. I definitely agree with that.
What was the price point of Pierce?
Pierce is 3,400.
34. Okay. Okay. But yeah, no, it's like you said, that's a complete shot in the dark. So I'm not in love with it, but like I said, I understand the process.
All right, all right. So good little mix of players we threw at everyone this week for the Sunday lineup. But now if everyone can kind of turn on the lights here, we're gonna turn up the lights here and go into our under the lights section. All All right. So under the lights here, just for a reminder for everyone, this is where we pick the Thursday night primetime game. That way, all of us can throw a little bit of action while watching the Thursday night game to start our football weeks, right? So this week for week 5 to kick it off is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the Washington Commanders in Washington, right? So a little bit looking at the lines here. Washington, the home team, is favored by 6 points against Chicago. And then we got the over under of this game is 44 and a half. So, real quick. So, I guess before we talk who we think's going to pop off in this game, Ethan, how do you think the overall flow of the game is going to go? Or, any, thoughts over the spreads or anything like that?
This one's a little tough because both teams are a little up and down. Obviously, Chicago has been absolutely awful until last week against Denver, which is apparently um, just allows everybody to score on them. But it was nice to see Justin Fields in that offense um, actually do something. Hey, maybe Claypool was that bad for the team because he was a healthy scratch. And look at they Fields actually looked like a competent quarterback.
Right.
Um, I'll have to give Kamish credit for that because he was in our group chat. He was crapping on Claypool because he doesn't like the guy very much. But it was kind of funny. They send the 32nd overall pick for Claypool, and the first time he's a healthy scratch, they actually do something offensively. So it was nice to see. I know a lot of Fields managers were getting pretty worried. I know I was, but I think this is a pretty interesting game. I think both offenses have decent matchups. I think if I was to bet on it, I think I'd bet the over in this one. You said 44 and a half.
Yes, 44 and a half.
Yeah, I think I'd go the over. I think Fields and Howell. I think they take what they did last week in week 4 and they continue that into week 5 and have decent nights. So I do think both offenses have a pretty decent showing, and I'm just hoping we get some decent offensive football.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, definitely when there's the duds on the primetime games, like, man, I'm staying up, I'm staying up this late for this, right? So hopefully it stays exciting. As far as the game script goes, I teams like this I tend to look at, okay, what's their top strengths? And for Washington, I want to say it's that front four. I do think, I mean, they have a pretty speedy front four too, and that can be dominating. We haven't really seen dominance though from Washington um, on
Agreed.
that front, right? So like I'm still waiting for that to happen. Hopefully they can start clicking, but they do have speed. You got do have Montez Sweat and some guys that can chase down Fields. So I guess on the betting front, I'm kind of looking at maybe if you can find the prop that's like Washington gets 3+ sacks, I'd maybe take 3 sacks, and then I'd probably take the Brian Robinson anytime touchdown there, and then I guess that's a good segue. Speaking of Brian Robinson, because he happens to be my captain in this game, so I guess like I said, kind of a good segue to talk captains here. Brian Robbins, my guy. Robinson is my guy in this game. It's funny. He's not super expensive. He's only like 13,000 as a captain. And to me, I think Brian Robinson's looked pretty studly this year. Definitely, has had some nice flashes. He's kind of that goal line guy as well. So they like him, right? And Bears are 30th against the run. So I think, just if you kind of just marry a couple of those concepts together, I think Brian Robinson's a good guy to get in your lineup. He's one of the more heavier favored guys to score in that game. So I like Brian Robinson as my captain. And then unfortunately, I think we've also seen that Washington's lost a little bit of faith in Antonio Gibson as well. So another reason why I got Brian Robinson as my captain this week. But Ethan, you want to comment on him and then go into your pick?
Yeah, I liked Robinson call. I was flirting with him in my captain spot just because I do like the matchup. Like you said, the Chicago Bears, the opposition is ranked 30th against the run and against running backs. So I do think there's a decent chance Robinson falls into the end zone. He's not my captain, but he is in my lineup. And I definitely was so far, anyways, wrong about Brian Robinson. I think he's around RB8 at the through 4 weeks, which I would have never guessed. I thought Antonio Gibson was going to be utilized more in this offense. He's not. He's barely getting any carries on the ground, which is very disheartening. And if I don't know, if I'm a running back needy team in the NFL, I'd be calling the Commanders and seeing what the price point is on Antonio Gibson. It just sucks that Ron Rivera isn't allowing Gibson to be unleashed. I thought with Bieniemy, I thought he was going to take on that Jerick McKinnon role, and we were going to see some good things. But it's been very disappointing on the Gibson front. But for Brian Robinson, it's been wheels up, and I think he does have a good day. I like the matchup, and I think he has a chance, like I said, to fall in the end zone. Um, to go into my captain, I went with Sam Howell. I just think the reason why I chose him over Brian Robinson is just the upside. I think Howell has a very good matchup too against the Bears. I mean, right now, the points allowed per game for the Bears are 29.8. That's 30th in the league. They're allowing an average of 267.8 passing yards, which is 29th, and total yards a game is 383.3, which is 28th. So the Bears are allowing a lot of offense. Sam Howell gives you the dual threat ability on the ground through the air, and I just think he has much more upside than in your captain spot than Brian Robinson. So I would rather have Howell in my captain spot and then Brian Robinson in my flex. But and Howell's been pretty good. He had one dud in week 3, I believe. He had the 4.6 points, just an absolute atrocious performance. But other than that, he's had 17, 21, and 19, 19.6. So he's been playing pretty good. He just took Philadelphia into overtime, and I think he takes that momentum and has a good day against Chicago. So they're playing at home, and he's a cheaper option than Fields, McLaurin, and DJ Moore. So I thought Howell was a smart choice in the captain spot.
I like Hal here. It's funny. I may take like a little page out of Bill Belichick's book, like, at least from what I've heard. Patriots, coaching staff and interviews say is, you got to win the game of field position, right? And I think going back to Washington Bears, I think the Bears are more susceptible to having some three and outs. And if Hal can play with a shorter field, I think he's going to set the team up to score some touchdowns, right? So I think, and if he's got to play with half the field, that can turn out pretty well for you. Another note, funny thing here is Kamish actually went with Sam Howell too. And a little tidbit here is the Bears so far this year has given up over 22 fantasy points to the quarterback position out of three out of 4 weeks, right? So it's actually a pretty safe play if you're a quarterback in the NFL and you're playing against the Bears, that you're probably going to score some points. So numbers don't lie there with both of your takes there with Sam Howell. All right, all right. So we'll definitely see how that game goes. Definitely stay tuned. If you're not following us on Discord, our Discord gets pretty live when with some of these games. We throw bets out there, and if we can all hop on some of the same plays, it's fun to win together, right? So find our Discord link on any of our socials and join in on the fun there. But with that being said, that kind of takes us to the last part of our episode this week. Ethan, you want to do your best Mims impression and give us a hot take?
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.
Yes, my hot take this week, it's going to be a player that I didn't mention in my bullish buys, but I was teetering between Bijan and this player. And the player I'm going to mention is David Montgomery. He's coming off a very big performance and had all the volume in the world. I believe he had 32 carries. And the Detroit Lions are going to be playing at home against Carolina, and they're ranked 28th in terms of stopping the running back position. rush yards a game, 136.3, which ranks 27th. And David Montgomery, as I said, just came off a performance where he had 32 carries, and I think Detroit's going to wipe the floor with Carolina. So I'm expecting Montgomery to have a big day. My bold take is he's going to have another 25 plus touches, and he's going to have 2 touchdowns. So that's my bold hot take for David Montgomery. And then just to throw another one for Rashee Rice, I think Rashee Rice a little less hot, but I think he goes over 100 yards and he gets in the end zone.
Oh, I like it. I like it there. And for all of you out there for on the DraftKings Sportsbook, you can probably find a 2+ TD bet if you want to find that Montgomery bet out there. That's usually pretty nice odds if you're betting anybody scored 2+ touchdowns. So um nice takes there. I'll go ahead and say mine. I'm gonna gravitate back to that Tennessee game. Just kind of hit on, it's the cheap defense for the week. I think Kevin Byard is gonna get a pick six against A Rich. So I think he takes one back. I think it's gonna be the play that kind of wrecks the game for the Colts. I think Tennessee is um gonna be on a little bit of a hot streak, 2 week hot streak there after coming off that Cincinnati win. So Kevin Byard gets a pick six in that game, and I'll go ahead and say commissions. And this one is my least favorite here because it's against my beloved my beloved Chiefs here. So it's a plus 222 bet. So I like this, but he's saying take the minus 2.5 points. Vikings versus Chiefs. So he's thinking the opposite there, that if you take the 2.5 point spread favoring Minnesota to win by 2.5 over 2.5, it's actually plus 222 odds. So it's a good bet. Definitely a hot take. I hope you're not right, Commish, but that's Commish's take this week.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that bet.
Yeah, it should probably be an exciting game. Hopefully we got a whole set of fun games to watch here in week 5. It's definitely been exciting. From week 3 and week 4 was, a lot of points scored. Like I said, we'll get back on track with these picks we gave you this week. Feeling good over quite a few of them this week. So with that being said, good luck to everyone, and peace.